It's September 2022 and I'm continuing my trip to Grenoble by exploring its many museums and galleries, as well as taking a trip out of town to visit a chateau with a difference. Located where the river Drac flows into the Isère and surrounded by Massifs of the French Alps, the self-styled capital of the Alps, Grenoble, has a history going back over 2,000 years, when Gallic tribes first established a village close to the Isère below the southern tip of the Chartreuse Massif. The story of the city from those earlier settlements through to the recent past is told in the Musée de l'ancien Évêché, housed in the former bishop's palace located next to the city's cathedral. The museum's permanent exhibit starts with local finds that date back to the prehistoric era, showing that peoples were at least passing through the area even before the arrival of the Gallic tribes. The museum wraps itself around the former bishop's palace, in places inside the original building, but at other times in spaces outside the original walls. There's even a small terrace that lets you look down on the entrance to the cathedral and the side chapel. In the basement of the museum is remains of an early Christian baptistry along with a small section of the Gallo-Roman wall that once surrounded the settlement. A short distance away, the Musée de la Résistance et de la Déportation à Grenoble charts the dark years of Grenoble during World War II, including the deportation of the city's Jewish population, along with the work of the French resistance in helping to fight against the Nazis and collaborative Vichy regime. Heading back towards the river, and the Musée de Grenoble is the city's museum dedicated to fine arts and antiques. The galleries house an eclectic range of artefacts, from Egyptian sarcophagi and Roman sculptures through to one of France's first curated modern art collections, via a wide array of paintings from the 13th century through to the modern day. Over the river, and at the base of La Bastille, is the former church of Saint-Laurent. Built on the remains of the Gallo-Roman necropolis, the church was expanded and developed over the centuries from the first buildings, the crypt of the church dating back to the 6th century. In 1983, the church was deconsecrated to allow archaeological excavations to take place and peel back the near 2 millennia of activity on the site. In 1986, the site opened to the public as the Musée archéologique de Grenoble, and today it shows the history of the building and its uses over the years. Entering the church high up the building, you look down on the altar, and in front of it, where the floor would have been, the exposed remains of different buildings that have been on the site beforehand, including the roof of the crypt. Off to one side are the remains of a necropolis with, in places, bones still in situ from their burial around 1700 years ago. The tour round the site ends in the 6th century crypt of the original church building. Before a small exhibit shows items discovered during the archaeological digs from across the life of the building. Head further downstream and start to climb up the side of La Bastille through gardens and past stunning views down over the city and the river as you head towards the former Convent de Sainte-Marie de... Founded in the 17th century as a convent for the Order of the Visitation of Holy Mary, it was converted into a jail for anti-revolutionaries in 1791 during the French Revolution, before returning to more religious use with the arrival of the Nuns of the Order of the Holy Heart in 1804, who devoted their time to educating young girls. The Ursulines took over the running of the school in 1851 and remained there until the city expelled them in 1905 and converted the buildings into a barracks, in use until 1920. The building was then used to house Italian families until the 1950s, before it was briefly used by students from the Grenoble School of Architecture, before being renovated by the city in 1966 and turned into its current form and use as the Musée dauphinois. Despite all the changes of use and knocking about the building has suffered, the original convent use can still be clearly seen, particularly in the chapel. Today, a large part of the site houses the various museums and exhibits of the Musée dauphinois, which tell the history of this region of France. "18 kilometres to the south of Grenoble is the town of Vizille. The most prominent feature of the town is the Château. Always an important building of the Dauphiné region, it played a key role in the acts that would lead up to the French Revolution. On June 7, 1788, riots broke out in Grenoble. Soldiers were sent in to quell the disturbances, but townspeople climbed onto the roofs and began to hurl roof tiles down on the soldiers, earning the day the title the Day of the Tiles. It was suspected the real reason for the troops being sent in was to prevent parliamentarians who were attempting to assemble a parliament. In July, Claude Pierre assembled a meeting in his castle, the Château de Vizille, to have the meeting that the soldiers had prevented in Grenoble. The Assembly of Vizille demanded the formation of a national parliament in Paris. For the first time, opposition to absolutist monarchy came out into the open, and with increasing support for its demands, the États Généraux met in Paris in 1789. Within months, revolution was sweeping the country. The castle remained in the Perrier family until 1895, with the castle becoming a historic monument in 1862. In 1924, the castle became the property of the French state, and in 1973 passed to the local community. Somewhat fittingly, given its role as an initial spark, the château now houses the Musée de la Révolution Française, the only museum of the world dedicated to the French Revolution. The museum houses documents, paintings, statues, sculptures and other artefacts relating to the Revolution, from those early days, the first murmurings of discontent, through to the period after the revolutions and wars. You can also wander the manicured parkland of your estate to take in the beautiful countryside and the stunning chateau building. Outside, a hedge garden marks the outline of where the Jeu de Paume Hall, where the Assembly of 1788 took place, once stood. Grenoble Airport is located 40 kilometres northwest of the city, but is almost exclusively used by winter ski traffic, with very few connections outside of the ski season. Lyon-Saint-Exupéry Airport is a major hub for the south of France, with connections from across Europe, North America, North Africa and the Middle East, and has direct train connections from the airport station to Grenoble, with a journey time of around 1 hour. Alternatively, Grenoble has a handful of direct TGV services to Paris Gare de Lyon via Lyon-Saint-Exupéry Airport, taking just over 3 hours, and regular trains to Lyon-Part-Dieu, where there are frequent TGV services to Paris, taking just under 4 hours, including connecting time.